Welcome back to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Steve Mantis, and my guest today is our Member of Parliament, Patty Hajdu, and the Minister of the Status of Women. Welcome back, Patty.
Thanks, Steve.
So, Patty, we talked a little bit earlier. So, your job before this one was as the Executive Director of Shelter House.
That's right.
And you've advocated very strongly for more affordable housing in Thunder Bay and our area. So, we just got the first budget of the Liberal government, and there is some money in there for housing. It's definitely much better than what we saw under the previous regime. Is it enough? Like, where are we going with this? Are we really going to make a dent, or what are your hopes and dreams around housing?
I think it's a fantastic start. I think when we inherited the purse strings, so to speak, we found a larger deficit than what the Conservatives had talked about. We had committed to a deficit of significant deficit, but what we found was that we were going to have to increase that deficit in order to actually make good on our election promises. And I think this is a really good start. I'm really particularly proud of our commitment to improve housing and water conditions for Indigenous people. And I don't think you can look at any one aspect of that budget in isolation. Because of course, what happens on First Nations communities directly impacts municipalities. So, if people have affordable housing, running water, good education in their communities, they are less likely to leave their communities in search of those things. And so our hope is that as we continue to invest in First Nations communities and help them build the communities they need to, in some cases, thrive economically, that we're going to make a dent in some of those communities' needs, but also that as we invest in municipalities, we're going to be able to retain our affordable housing stock, first of all, and then, yes, move forward and build the stock that we need. And this investment is really about helping those who are the most vulnerable, but it's also about stimulating our economy. I mean, we have to get people back to work. So it is really one of the reasons that I was attracted to the Liberal Party was this concept that good social policy is good fiscal policy. And oftentimes we talk about things as if we can't afford them, but in fact, what we can't afford to do is to do nothing. What we've been basically doing for the last decade under the previous government is downloading the costs of not investing in affordable housing, not investing in education and water and access to health services, downloading those costs to the provinces, downloading those costs to the municipalities. And so we need to see these investments as a way to kind of alleviate those burdens. Is it going to fix it all in the first round? Absolutely not. But I think what we do know is that, with this commitment to running a deficit, what we're acknowledging is that confident countries invest in themselves, first of all. And this is really addressing this significant infrastructure deficit that has been growing exponentially year after year. I mean, we need to do these things. So is it, your question is, is it enough? I don't think there's any budget. I don't think there's a deficit big enough to fix it in the first round, but it's certainly a very good first step, and it's a great commitment on behalf of our government to start to address these significant infrastructure deficits, yeah.
So I've got like 3 or 4 questions just from that one. So, I'm still sitting on some of the committees you and I both sat on, and today our poverty reduction strategy was meeting and talking about housing. And we're kind of going, it's a good step. Definitely, it does turn the corner from the last government, and we're very happy about that, but see that there's still a long ways to go.
Absolutely.
What do you see our role as advocates in the community to kind of keep pushing that agenda?
Well, I think you need to push it at multiple levels. I think it's not just the federal level. I mean, we've been very clear that municipalities and provinces need to set priorities, and that the federal government is not in the business of telling municipalities what they need. So that leaves citizens in a position of advocacy. I mean, if you believe that your municipality should be working towards increased affordable housing, then you have a role as a citizen to advocate at a local level, because those local decision makers will also impact what kinds of projects they decide to move forward on. I mean, it isn't a magical tap that gets turned on and money just flows. I mean, municipalities and provinces have to ask for money and have a plan. We've talked about shovel-ready projects, but they have to be shovel-worthy too. I mean, we don't want to be throwing money at projects that aren't going to enhance the functioning of communities, that are not going to enhance our economy, that are not going to enhance people's ability to thrive, right? So I think citizens can certainly work at a local level. But I think also there's a role in terms of looking broadly throughout the budget. I mean, I look at the Canada Child Benefit that we've proposed, and that's in the budget. And for people that are earning, I think it's under $30,000, it's about $6,000 a year per child under 6 for 6 and under. When I was a single mother raising 2 boys, and I was making just under $30,000 with 2 children under 6. That would have been an extra $12,000 tax-free in my pocket. I mean, that's a big number. So when you're looking at poverty reduction, that allows a single parent or a family that's, a low-income family to actually maybe get a place that costs a little bit more, or maybe put their child in lessons, or maybe get some, tutoring that their child might need, or maybe buy some special food that, that their family needs, or whatever, whether it's to support for childcare. It really gives families the flexibility, but it's also a very significant amount of money. And the nice thing about the Canada Child Benefit is that it is actually income tested. So those that need the help the most will get the most money. And as you start to earn money, then in fact your Canada Child Benefit will decrease, so that people that are earning a lot of money, that don't need the help are not going to, unlike the previous universal child credit, that money is going to be diverted to people that really need it. So I think poverty groups can look at those programs and make sure that people are aware of how important it is, and support people to file their income tax. I mean, income tax is going to be the mechanism to trigger those benefits. So how do we make sure that people have the support that they need to make sure that piece of work is done? Absolutely.
And it's great because here in Thunder Bay, we've got the Lakehead Social Planning Council that helps people, low-income people, with their income tax. Over 5,000 people get free help doing their income tax. So for folks who need that help, check out 2-on-1 on your phone, or the Lakehead Social Planning Council.
That's right, yeah.
The other is kind of trying to understand if the government's got that long-term plan. So you talked about, okay, we're not going to solve this in the first round. I'm not sure what that round is. Is that 4 or 5 years?
Well, we've got
a
sort of a 2-year plan right now, which is the first 2 years is really about getting the money out the door. It is as great as $2 billion sounds, for example, to invest in First Nations communities, and drinking water. It sounds great, right? Let's just spend $2 billion. There's a capacity issue, and I'm not talking about First Nations capacity. I mean, I'm talking about everybody's capacity to kind of get that money spent. And we don't want to operate in a way that we're returning money essentially to the Treasury Board that we cannot spend. So the first couple of years is really about what I said earlier, shovel-ready and shovel-worthy projects, things that we can start working on immediately. And then the longer-term investment plan, which is the actual building of affordable housing, really needs to be based on a plan. And that's where the housing strategy, the National Housing Strategy, comes into play. And so this commitment to having a National Housing Strategy is music to the ears of people who work in housing, because what it means is basically we'll be charting a course that's planned. And we won't be, we'll be able to consult with a wide group of stakeholders from across the countries, big communities, small communities, remote communities, rural communities, and make sure that their needs are reflected in this national housing strategy. Without that plan, I think we run the risk of, forgetting about areas, maybe not forgetting, that might be a bit harsh, but some areas not getting the support they need. That's right, yeah.
We're going to need to take a short break. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.